Hey, what's going on YouTube? Hiker Dave here. How are ya? I hope everyone's doing well. Um, this Miller document that I made my last video on, really interesting. But I want to be sure not to fall for something like this or to not invest in it until I find out that there's validity to this thing. They're, I guess, in the process of trying to vet this document and make sure it's real and do some research and back up this fact and that fact and you know, check all the information. With that being said, boy, do I believe this document. I do, and so you got to be careful because I believe and I want to believe. And, you know, that's something that can kind of get you in trouble when it comes to this subject. What really interests me is the talk of the government setting aside land for this new species, which obviously Dr. Miller is talking about Sasquatch, and how he talks that they're going to set aside areas in that in the future they will come out with an announcement and say that this is a newly discovered species. That two big tree breaks right there, but they're low. That this is a new species, and I don't know how that's going to go. Now, Dr. Miller spoke of it was a 20-year plan that the government had. Well, the writings or this memoirs of Dr. Miller were a long time ago. Has the 20-year plan come and gone, or is it still something that's in the works here? And they talk about he talks about Utah and Washington and Colorado, and you know, of these places that are lousy with Sasquatch sightings and sign and these things that really makes it believable, you know. So, you know, again, I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to be realistic. You know, reality is perception, right? I mean, I'm not going to get all into that, but so really, really interesting. Check this document out. And you know, he talks about that with the scent glands on the female's forearms really intrigues me. I am among the belief that that stench that people talk about before a sighting, I think that is a voluntary mechanism that Sasquatch use to keep people away from them or whatever, away from them or out of their area. I don't believe that they smell like that all the time. You know, I guess kind of like a skunk, right? And he talks about the downward-facing nostrils of these creatures, and this guy must have done some serious DNA work. I mean, he is a learned guy. Went to Yale, Harvard. You know, it's so. I mean, it just seems to me very believable. And he talks about the Mount St. Helens bodies that he did research on, the body in Oregon that was found under a tree, and he talks about that this Bigfoot was struck by lightning before the tree was, and that was cause of death. The tree didn't kill the Bigfoot. He was killed by the actual lightning striking its body. And he writes that the lightning strike on the tree was 20 feet plus in the air. So, you know, that tells you that this thing was up in a tree. This female pregnant with twins was up in a tree when it got hit by lightning. I for some reason thought, you know, the tree fell on this thing and it died. But, you know, this is the stuff I'm thinking of right now as I'm hiking around. I lost my trail. I'm in a spot of the forest where the trails aren't marked, and I kind of just went off trail. But anyways, so Interesting stuff, guys, this document. And there was another document that possibly could have been tied to this. It was a woman who spoke of an aunt that she had, or a friend or a relative, that talked about the bodies in Texas. They found them at the mouth of a cave, I believe. And that her aunt spoke of Dr. Miller, and that this Dr. Miller was not that happy that a female discovered these bodies, and not a male scientist. She was a female scientist. But and also he talks about he's examined hundreds of these creatures. You know, I mean, the population, I believe, of Sasquatch is through the roof. And I think that the government tried to keep these creatures in a managed area. And like any wild animal, if it's not fenced or caged, it will travel. And I think over time that that Sasquatch have actually traveled out of its original habitat area, whether it is just to stay out from under the thumb of the government, or just a natural travel pattern for hunting. And they just found themselves noticing that there is a vast area in North America that they can travel, and they ended up just kind of spread out. And now the government this whole thing, the cat's out of the bag, right? You know what I mean? You can't stuff it back in again. Now that it's out, I believe that they just do a ton of damage control. I think that's my trail over there. So anyways, thank you guys for clicking. I do appreciate it. Leave some comments what you think. If you've watched this video first before the Miller document video, then you might not know what the heck I'm talking about. Or I think most of you are already aware of the Miller document anyways. So thank you very much for clicking, you guys, and I will see you on the next one.